Hello and welcome to the very first week of the Team Draft Super League. I'm Reed Duke, and with me is Sam Black. How's it going, Sam?
Great. Got kind of destroyed in the draft in a few different levels, but I'm optimistic about my teammates.
Yeah, well, however your deck turned out, that ended up being a pretty close match. I think I would have been in trouble if you'd hit your black mana on time in Game 3, but your deck ran pretty well in Game 2, and I think
Yeah.
I was pretty lucky in the way my deck matched up against yours. Anybody that actually has to slog through your ground creatures by attacking on the ground or using removal spells is just going to get, destroyed by the
It was
Wandering
definitely
Deaths.
not a good pairing for me. But yeah, I mean, I really needed to draw my lifeline cards against you, and I did in Game 2. Don't really think there's any other way for me to win that match, basically.
So for anyone just tuning in the first round, I beat Sam in a pretty close 3-game match, but Sam's teammate Matt Severa beat Huey, so the score is tied 1-1 right now. Or is that right?
I believe so.
Okay, and then for this round, we were going to have Justin, Matt, Huey, and Owen all playing. We're going to cover one match first, and then if there's enough time to switch to the second one, we'll get to see a little bit of everybody's deck.
So we're starting with Owen against Matt, right?
Yep, Owen against Matt. And the difference between last round and this round is we now have each other's deck lists. Owen, I can give you a sneak preview, I think has the strongest deck on our team. He's got a really nice blue-red with 2 Enigma Drakes and a Glorybringer. And then Matt's deck is actually pretty similar to mine, like a blue-white Flyers. He's got, funny enough, also Temet, Vizier of Noctimon, and also an Aven Wind Guide. But
I think he's maybe a little lower to the ground. He has the 3 Slither Blades.
That's true. Yep, he's got a lower mana curve and actually only 15 lands, which is fairly impressive to be able to build a 15-land deck in team draft format, since usually the number of playable cards is a little tight. There's not quite as many to go around.
Yeah, especially when you're competing, with someone else in the draft in the exact same colors.
Now, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look closely at the deck list, but my quick glance seems to have Justin having the strongest deck on your team. He got basically every green card in the draft. And just a super nice, nearly mono green beatdown deck, double synchronized strike. But that'll be the backup match against Huey, so we're not sure if we'll see him on camera right away. You want to talk a little bit about how you thought the draft went?
Yeah, so I opened, cast out Magma Spray, Enigma Drake, and Temet, and I feel like Magma Spray and Cast Out are extremely close in power level. I was really on the fence about which one to take. I went with the Cast Out, and White certainly didn't feel open, but I don't usually expect it to be.
For what it's worth, I'm right with you on that decision. I would have taken Cast Out as well, but it just so happened that I was passing to you and took a white card, so that sort of broke, fortunately for my team.
Yeah, so then I just, moved into black with the Baleful Amit, and didn't really see any strong signals to go anything else. And then, since I wasn't really seeing anything great, I think black is pretty weak, and I was getting cut on white. Usually when I'm white-black, I'm kind of leaning on white cards, which weren't coming. So I tried giving myself outs to do something interesting. With I saw that there were some Nests of Scarabs, and I think that card's pretty bad and very hard to use, but I've seen a couple of decks where it's good. And there was also an Anointer Priest that I thought I would likely be able to table, but didn't. And so I was trying to be open to becoming some kind of combo-y tokensy deck, but the cards didn't great to let me do that, even though I was kind of able to if I needed to do the white counter or the black counters thing. So I took those moderate playable.
Hey Sam, I'm losing your audio a tiny bit. I can't tell if it's a problem on my side or yours.
Oh, weird. All right.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, so tried to give myself outs to do something there, and took like one of the Nessus of Scarabs speculatively over a Pitiless Vizier that would have been really good in my deck, as it turned out, that I thought I just wouldn't really need, but I ended up being pretty creature short, having a lot of cyclers, so ended up kind of getting punished for trying to be flexible in that way. But
I similarly was... I knew for the most of the draft I was going to be white, but I was really like switching around in which color I might be. I took some black cards because I didn't want you to get them. I took some blue cards because I'd gotten a blue rare early on. And then there were just a million honored crop captains in the draft that I kept getting really late. So I sort of like, wanted to be open to drafting all these different colors. But again, in the team draft format, you're tight on playables and there's a lot less flexibility than we're used to.
Oh yeah, you ended up with right. Yeah. Those were definitely going around, and you just couldn't move into red for them.
Yeah, I mean, I finished the draft with 4 honored crop captains in my sideboard, and I tried to see if I could construct a red-white deck, but I was just even stretching as far as it goes. Only had 19 playables in that color combination.
Right. Yeah, you definitely took some cards I was really hoping to table for my deck, like the Trial of Ambition and Cartouche of Ambition.
Yeah, the Trial of Ambition was probably the toughest pick of the draft for me because there was that pack had, when I saw it, Trial of Ambition, Rags Riches, and Compulsory Rest. So yeah. I wanted the Compulsory Rest for my deck, and I didn't particularly want to play against either the Trial of Ambition or the Rags to Riches. Right. But I sort of was just hoping maybe Sam's not blue and won't be so interested in the Rags to Riches. Knowing now that you're black-white, it seems like you probably took the Compulsory Rest and got a good card out of that pack anyway.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, so that's a
I certainly
real
would not have had the discipline to hate draft over taking a card from my deck in your spot there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it very well could have been a poor decision. But at any rate, I was concerned that you were going to have a really good black deck based on having passed, the Never Return, that one hurt to pass. There were a lot of Splendid Agonies and Wandering Deaths in the draft as well. So
yeah, that's most of what I have for sure. A lot of
there's still a couple rounds to go, so if you get the right pairing against decks that are particularly vulnerable to those cards, any.
Yeah, I mean, your teammates are Huey's blue-red, mostly big creatures, so he doesn't look super vulnerable to those cards. Yeah, so I'm just playing against 2 blue-red decks. Not really the best spot. It's all high toughness guys.
Well, maybe the Wandering Deaths will be good if
they end up
Huey's deck is like a control mirror or something like that.
Yeah. I'm mostly counting on my teammates.
Well, you got good teammates, so that's not too bad of a spot to be in.
I think
we've all been there before.
Matt's position against Owen here. I think Owen's deck has a lot of cycling that it's pretty realistic for Matt to get under while he's spending his mana just going through cards rather than developing, and Severus putting creatures into play, and then has things like White Trial to finish the game out before Owen Glorybringers him.
Yeah, it's true that could be a favorable matchup for from Matt's side, especially if Owen's defense winds up being in the form of Electrify, Essence Scatter, Illusory Wrappings. Those are just not good cards against 1-drop creatures.
Right.
So Sam, let me ask you, without prying for too much information for future rounds, but Did your team have any kind of concerted strategy going into this draft, or did you just sort of all, you're all going to do the best you can with what you see?
Yeah, we didn't really plan anything. I think all of us have I don't know. I know Matt and I are pretty into just drafting our decks in team drafts rather than worrying too much about what else is going on at the table. I've just seen so many times when people just get wrong reads on the people next to them and end up hitting cards from their teammates and stuff. I tend to err toward just treating it more like a one-on-one draft than I think a lot of people, more like a just individual draft than I think a lot of people do.
Yeah. Our team is funny in that way because Owen and I are very much from, the modern era of Magic where there are very few team drafts in competitive events. So we never really learned the specific strategy of the hook and cut and making sure you train wreck the people near you, your opponents near you. We kind of just draft our own decks, and you can see that if you take a look at Owen's deck list. It's just Owen has a great blue-red deck, just like you draft in an 8-man draft. But Huey, on the other hand, he grew up doing these team drafts, and he knows everything about it, and he'll go far out of his way to make sure he's not passing anything, dabbling into all the different colors, making sure nothing's open for the player on his left. And you can see that in his deck he's often ending up in three-color decks and not focusing as much on building his own deck as just managing the table around him. So, not that there's necessarily a best or a worst way to do it, but it's funny on my team that we have two different approaches going on at the same time.
Yeah, and I see Huey is very much just in a 3-color deck here. He has double black with Rags Riches, with 2 early red creatures and the blood red brawlers. Actually, he has doubles of all 3 of his colors. He has Hyena Pack, Rags Riches, and Glyph Keeper.
Yep. Yeah, he does. And he's got, basically a whole other deck in his sideboard with a bunch of red and green aggressive cards that he seemed to have hate drafted. Sam, have you ever used this card, Cascading Cataracts?
Is that the 5-mana, the 5-color thing? Yeah, I have not used it.
Yeah, it's the rare land similar to Crystal Quarry where you can bigger painted bluffs, exactly. I put that in my deck for the first time at the Pro Tour because I was 2 colors with a splash, but my splash was Cruel Reality, the 7-mana Mythic Curse. So I'm okay, well, I need to use things that fix for double colors of mana, and Cascading Cataracts was what I came up with.
Yeah, it's awkward to turn your 7-drop into an 8-drop, but got to do what you got to do, I guess.
Yeah, it also pairs well with the Naga Vitalist, because if, Forest, Cascading Cataracts, and Naga Vitalist, you can produce any color of mana.
Yeah, so although I know that has been bugged on Magic Online. I'm not sure if it's fixed now.
Yeah, it's bugged on Magic Online. So when I headed the Pro Tour, the first thing I did was call over a judge. I'm Judge, make sure I understand the way this works correctly. But that is the way it's supposed to work. You can produce any color of mana with your Vitalist.
It's very rare to see 18 land decks in this format.
It is. That's true. Yeah, between the format generally being pretty aggressive and lots of decks having cycling.
Yeah.
You often don't find yourself playing 18 lands, but Huey does have a cycling land, which you can sort of play a half or a quarter of an extra land when you have something like that because it reduces the risk of flooding out.
Yeah, he has a cycling land, and he also has very few cyclers in his deck. I think it might only be Deem-worthy, which only barely counts. Deem-worthy and Wonder and Death. And he also has good mana sinks in Kefnet and Trial of Knowledge.
Yep, absolutely.
So it definitely makes sense here. It's just pretty weird for the format.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Okay, sounds like the players are ready, so we're going to go down and see Owen Turtenwald versus Matt Severa. Okay, welcome back, and please disregard what I just said because we're actually going to be watching William Jensen versus Justin Cohen. Justin, as we mentioned briefly, has the really strong virtually mono green beatdown deck, and Huey has the 3-color Grixis 18 land control deck.
Looking at these opening hands, it looks like Justin's curve is a little not what he's looking for. Oh, that was a great draw, though.
Yeah, that's just what he wanted. His hand was certainly fine, keepable hand, but was only going to start on turn 3. But Exemplar of Strength is a premium 2-drop and just the way his deck wants to start the game.
Yeah, it also has a little bit of synergy with the Ornery Kudu or whatever in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
He even drew a Plains for his Sparring Mummy, so a good start here.
Now, if you're in Justin's spot here, are you afraid to attack into Huey's 3 open mana and prowess creature?
Yes. I might do it, but I'd certainly be afraid. I think you likely have to just develop your board here and pass. But obviously, given Huey's hand, it would work out a lot better to attack.
Oh, he's bold.
I don't know that I like the play in general, but I'm glad he's making it.
Well, you don't want to look like a coward in front of thousands and thousands of viewers. Team Draft Super League.
Yeah, and I mean it's also like depending on what spell you would have here, he's getting a little bit of bluff equity on himself having a trick, especially since Huey's seen his deck list. He knows Justin has a bunch of tricks that he could be representing here.
Yeah. So that was a big missed land drop from Huey. The Deem Worthy in his hand is shaping up to be really good in this game, but he would have loved to be able to cycle it that turn and take a little pressure off and dig deeper towards his land drops.
Yeah.
Funny, this is the first time I've done coverage where I'm really allowed to have somebody that I'm clearly rooting for here, but
yeah.
So far the advantage bar is going in Sam's favor.
We get the Exert into Sparring Mummy action here. A lot of pre-combat creatures to show that we don't have any tricks, but it doesn't matter in this spot since Huey can't do anything anyway. And that was a playable but not a useful one. This is looking like it's going to be a short game.
I'm impressed with how good Defiant Great Maw seems to be in Justin's deck. That's a card that, sometimes is hard to get much better use than just a 2/3 out of, but if you can curve Exemplar into Strength into Defiant Great Maw, boom, you're attacking with a 4/4 on the third turn of the game.
Yeah, it was really big.
So Huey's life total in jeopardy very quickly here, and he drew a castable spell, but against Justin's oversized creatures, it's not going to help that much. Good news is it's an instant that could trigger prowess on defense, so maybe he can make something out of this.
What do you think of using the cartouche on the Hooded Brawler here?
That sounds like a great idea, because if any of his 3 attackers gets through, it's going to be lethal. So the risk of Huey using a removal spell on the 4th tapped creature is not really something he has to worry about. If he does make that play, Huey's going to have to Splendid Agony 1 counter on the Brawler and 1 counter on the Great Maw. That will pump his creatures up to 4 toughness and allow him to survive the turn. But it's a tough way to do it.
He's going to get Great Maw. Now Huey's going to have
Huey's going to have to put 2 counters on either the Great Maw or the Sparring Mummy, because he has to reduce one of the 3 attackers down to 1 power. Now, keep in mind, Cartouche of Strength, the fight is optional. So if Huey was to shrink down the Great Maw to a 1/2, Justin could just click no and decide not to fight.
I assume Huey's supposed to do it on the Great Maw because it has trample, and Justin could have it. I guess if Justin has a trick, he's dead no matter what. He has to just assume Justin doesn't.
Yeah, I think so too. Looks like he's going after the sparring mummy.
And now I think Justin's supposed to decline the fight because if he uses it, then the other Jackal blocks the Great Maw, and the damaged one blocks the Exemplar, and then he gets to finish off the Great Maw.
Now, the best I can make of this situation, and based on what I know from Huey's probably thinking this is an awful spot for me. Let me do the most confusing play possible and hope that something weird happens. So, for example, if Justin chooses to fight here, then Huey can block Defiant Great Maw with the other Nimble Blade Kenra and kill it for free.
Okay, but it looks like Justin correctly chose not to fight. Oh, this is awesome. You get to put a counter on the Great Maw and then pump the Sparring Mummy.
Wow, big play by Justin. Very cool. I can't say I would have seen that. That's great.
Yeah, that was a really cool ending to a game that was not very interesting, really. Like, Justin just kind of ran over him, but then we got to at least see a sweet play there.
All right, so sideboarding. Justin has access to some defensive cards, Giant Spiders and Stinging Shot. Doesn't look like he's going to be in the market for those in this match. And then...
Yeah, they have deck lists, so Justin will know exactly what Stinging Shot can do when he's deciding if he wants to bring it in.
Yeah. Huey doesn't seem to have much. Maybe that Illusory Wrappings is a card he might want against big creatures of Justin. Yeah, and sure enough, there he goes. Illusory Wrappings, taking out Cancel. That's a little scary with Regal Caracal and Scaled Behemoth on the opposite side, but I do like just being lean
on the
and
back
efficient.
foot. It's really hard to have Cancel in a deck that has so few blue sources.
That's true. Huey's best chance here might be to just hope things break in a way where Rags to Riches is really good. Because if he can actually get a relatively clean board with Riches in the graveyard, that's going to be really strong against a green Toughies deck. Problem is many of Justin's creatures can get out of range of the Rags side pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough when you have to rely on a card that only works against around half of the creatures or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell what the
that factors
aftermath
into Justin bringing in the Honed Kopesh?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I was going to ask if you could tell what the Aftermath card was in Justin's sideboard. I think it might have been Onward to Victory, but
yeah, I think it was Onward.
Yeah, white half poking out there. Okay, good hands from both players.
Yeah. Especially Huey. Justin's on another all 3 drops hand.
Mm-hmm.
Huey has just a great curve.
And all colors of mana.
Yep.
Though not double black for the Rags just yet. So I'd expect Justin to lead with Ornery Kudu and then Defiant Great Maw the following turn.
That makes sense.
He might just go with the Hooded Brawler first, but that would be...
The Hooded Brawler matches up so much worse against the creatures that Huey has in play right now.
Yeah, I think so too.
There's Swamp, so you can now cast Rags, though it's not a great board for it.
And I like that play from Huey. A lot of players would maybe attack with at least Nimble Blade Kenra, because you can either have them bounce off or choose to Magma Spray the Kudu. But holding back disguises his hand a little bit and just allows him to wait for the best possible spot to use his instant.
Yep.
One thing that he's going to be looking for here is maybe if he can use Rags and Magma Spray in the same turn to finish off a larger creature. Oh, and if he's not afraid of a single green combat trick, he can use Magma Spray to eat the Ornery Kudu here.
Right, he does know that Justin has Shed Weakness in his deck, but this attack from Justin's side looks like the kind of attack that, unless Huey has exactly Magma Spray, it works out well, so it's likely that Justin's going to make the attack even if he doesn't have it, but Huey gives him credit. Or just didn't want to use the Magma Spray.
A little bit of the anti-synergy between Blood Rage Brawler and Kefnet the Mindful.
Yeah, those are not often cards that you see next to each other.
It wouldn't be unreasonable to play the Brawler and discard the Aftermath card, since Justin's creatures, and with the Hone Kopesh in play, are just looking to be very resilient to Rag's Riches.
He's going to use Kefnet instead.
And he did it on his main phase so that he could replay the untapped Mountain.
Yeah.
Kefnet's a card that really puts, what I like to call a clock on the game. It puts the pressure on Justin to, win within a reasonable time frame, or else I'm just going to spend all this mana, draw these extra cards, and win eventually.
I'm really glad that Justin went for the equip attack rather than just playing Hooded Brawler and Elf this turn and then getting Ragsed.
Yep. Now, Huey's really being patient and picking his spot. He doesn't want to play into a combat trick. He doesn't want to try to do a multi-block or anything like that.
Justin's going ultra conservative here with the Bitter Blader instead of the Hooded Brawler. He's really playing around Rags here.
Now Huey's a bit stuck because he doesn't have double red, so he can really only cast one spell per turn. But passing with mana open here is pretty nice because he has access to either of his two instants, and if Justin doesn't make a big attack, he can just draw an extra card with Kefnet.
Synchronized Strike was a really good draw for Justin.
That's true, really good draw. So this is going to be an interesting turn. I'd also like to mention that Huey has the option to activate Kefnet and bounce a land, and that'll give him 7 cards to have it as a blocker.
Oh yeah, that's a huge part of why he would not do anything here.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like Justin's not going to run into the Kefnet activate and just build up.
Yeah, this is a tricky spot for both players, actually, and it's shaping up to be a very tight game.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the way Huey's played it, just playing for Kefnet here against a deck that doesn't have any good answers to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, it's still a very precarious board situation. I give the advantage to Justin on the board, but the late game inevitability of Kefnet is a huge advantage for Huey. So as long as he can just keep passing the turn without taking a bunch of damage, it's gonna benefit him in the long run.
Yeah, I actually think Huey's favored here.
Mm-hmm.
The Kefnet's just so hard to get through. He has other chump blockers to eat a creature while blocking with Kefnet, and a really powerful hand that's only getting better over time.
So Sam, I noticed that you and Justin both have Cradle of the Accursed in your main deck. Is that a card that you generally like, or does it have to do with maybe Justin's mana base and the lack of creatures or the shortage of creatures in your deck?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's just Justin's basically a monocolor deck, so you can play it really easily. And I only had 8 creatures in my deck, so I just felt like I needed it.
Okay.
I know, at least on our team, there was some pretty serious disagreement about exactly how good Kefnet is. Did you guys have more of a consensus about it being good, or?
We had a lot of disagreement also. Sometimes with the mythic rares, just not everybody has had extensive experience with them, and Kefnet's such a unique card that's not really similar to anything we're used to. It's very tough to evaluate.
Yeah.
But I think the people that have had a chance to play with Kefnet have liked it. But
yeah,
I know going into the
kind
Pro
of
Tour,
game
I
that
would
I've
have been
seen with
nervous.
Kefnet more often.
Yeah.
I think it's a very strong card, but I understand the mindset that the format's just mostly about curving out and going fast, and that Kefnet can be too slow in those games, or that it's too likely that you have a hand with a Blood Rage Brawler in a deck like Huey's, and then you just draw Kefnet after you've already gotten out of position to use it.
All right, so here's a very crucial combat step. Huey's going for the Magma Spray before blockers, which is going to probably prompt Justin to use Synchronized Strike. Then Huey will have the option to move around his creatures in a way that protects his life total the best possible way, but the sheer size of Justin's creatures is going to be tough to get a profitable combat step out of.
Yeah, it's tricky to figure out what to strike here, because you kind of want to untap the Hooded Brawler, but you also don't really need the Brawler to be much bigger. I guess if it's bigger, it can't get killed by Kefnet.
Okay, so this Magma Spray is getting cast in response to Exert. So keep in mind the Hooded Brawler is going to become a 6/5, and as you mentioned, could be even a 7/6. Justin is targeting, the 2 Exert creatures. So this puts Huey in a spot where he can choose to eat a creature smaller than Hooded Brawler, but he's going to have to chump block the Hooded Brawler with probably Talkrop Skirmisher.
And then the Nibble Blade gets to just prevent 3 damage from the Kudu, and Kefnet gets to eat the Bitter Blade, and Huey's going to take 2. It seems like a pretty good exchange for Huey all around.
Yeah, he can choose to eat any of the 3 creatures he would like. It might be best to eat the Ornery Kudu, especially because of Rag's Riches still in hand.
Yeah.
And then he can choose to either trade the Nimble Blade Kenra against the Bitter Blade Warrior, or just use it to bounce off one of the smaller creatures.
Looks like his first instinct is to make the play that I was originally looking at. Oh no, he's blocking the 2/3 instead of the 3/4. I don't know why you would do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure either. He doesn't have another instant to cast this turn, right? He's not going to be triggering Prowess again.
Right.
Yeah, it looks like he's blocking a way that takes 1 extra damage. I'm not sure what the advantage is here. Oh, he's still deciding.
Right.
And yeah, there we go.
I suspect that what's going to happen is that Justin's going to play and use the cradle, and then Huey's going to be able to rags if he wants. Although, I guess since he blocked the bitter blade, it would just kill the one creature. So I guess that's not that exciting. Still think Huey is a pretty big favorite in this game.
Yeah, the Kefnet is just matching up so well against the medium-sized attackers on Justin's side of the table. You know, being able to eat one and not take a massive amount of damage just makes it very hard for Justin to attack. Huey puts the -1 counter on Kefnet just to sort of spread out his weapons among a couple different creatures. That makes some sense to me.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think Justin can really attack here, which I think means the game's basically over.
Yeah, anything Justin can draw to change the situation here. Regal Caracal is one of his strongest creatures. Scaled Behemoth, but even that can't punch through a Kefnet.
Right, I don't think either one of those does anything. The Regal Caracal can just get ragsed or electrified. Killing either half of that should basically eliminate the threat. He's just taking the conservative play of getting two of Justin's creatures out of the way here, which makes sense.
And he's careful to keep 7 cards in his hand at all times.
Yeah, I really can't think of any possible way that this could develop in a way that leads to Justin winning.
Yeah, what if he can make a big creature with a cartouche of strength? Problem is he is more than just the Kefnet as a blocker, so it's going to take a lot of power and toughness to get through.
Yeah, especially, and now he has Deem-worthy to answer any big creature.
So we have an update from the other side of the match. Owen Turtenwald and Matt Severa are tied 1-1 here. Matt won the first game and Owen won the second one.
So Matt will be on the play. Game 3.
Yeah, so halfway through here, and we're at pretty much a dead heat, assuming Huey does go on to win this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see the power of just being able to pass every turn with open mana. Kefnet as a blocker, access to every instant, nothing to worry about, and then if nothing happens, end of turn, you just draw extra cards.
Yep. Now this game is really trying to Kefnet. So here he is inviting Justin to double block, which would allow Deem-worthy to functionally kill both of Justin's creatures.
Right. At this point, Huey's so far ahead on resources that he might even be willing to make an unfavorable trade just to make sure the board stays clear. He could just trade, 1 for 1 if he's worried about a combat trick or something.
Yep.
Okay, so the players are tied 1-1.
I see the score has been updated to team wins 2-1. Does that mean that Severa beat Owen?
Severa did beat Owen. Yep. So your team, Sam, is up 2-1 in matches after Matt Severa beats Owen 2-1 in games.
Yes, this is a big third game here. It's a huge difference between 2-2 and 3-1.
Yeah, this might be the toughest of the match from Huey's perspective, since Justin does get to be on the play. If he has one of those really good draws with an exemplar of strength on turn 2, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think that I think the advantage bar swings pretty heavily depending on whether or not Justin has a 2-drop.
I think so too. Justin has sideboarded out his Spidery Grasps. He must figure that he already has Synchronized Strike, which is better, and doesn't want to have too many, we'll call them predictable 3-mana combat tricks against a deck with a lot of instants.
Right. Justin does have a good curve.
Huey's hand is sketchy to say the least. Nothing to cast before turn 4, and he's missing a color.
The color of his cards.
Yeah, now, as much as I'm loath to mulligan with a deck like this, I think he's probably going to have to throw this one back.
Yeah, I don't think you can keep a hand where you need to draw both early plays and lands in order to participate in the early game when you're on the draw against a deck that's aggressive.
Mm-hmm. All right, he mulliganed to a good 6.
I think 2 of his colors of mana and some early plays is definitely what he's hoping to see on a mulligan there.
Now, we don't know what Huey saw with the Scry, but if you were to see just something like a mountain or an island, call it a land that doesn't produce black mana, would you scry that to the top?
I don't think I would.
Yeah, it's tough to scry a land to the top when you still are missing a color, but it looked like things worked out well for Huey as he's able to draw Swamp on turn 1, and he's got unlocked all the spells in his hand.
Huey's cards are cheap enough, and the Warfire Javelineer means he really wants to draw a spell before he casts it anyway. So I don't think that another island or swamp really helps develop his hand the way he needs to, and I think that he's likely enough to draw a 3rd land, even if he scries land to the bottom on the draw with so many draws to get there.
Yeah, great point that there's no need to rush to casting the Warfire Javelineer. Justin not trading, perhaps waiting for a Synchronized Strike or a Honed Kopesh to be able to push through. I might have just gone for the trade against the Prowess creature.
It's definitely close. Justin has things that need him to develop a board, but Huey has Rags, which, if he casts Rags before that Initiate's Companion trades off, it's really bad for Justin.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good draw.
Yeah, I was just thinking that this is probably going to be the type of game where Huey might not be able to play around combat tricks. He's just going to have to say, look, I'm a little bit behind. I need to just hope you don't have it. So Justin picking up the Shed Weakness that's a card that's virtually guaranteed to get some value this game.
Yeah, just being able to make 2 plays this turn where he was on track to only make 1 is a pretty big deal. Would you use the Shed Weakness here to save your creature, or would you just hold it?
I think I would use it for the reason that you mentioned, just being able to cast 2 spells.
Yeah, the thing is, the Shed Weakness is going to let him make 2 plays at some point soon, either way, likely.
That's true, yeah.
And the Companion doesn't match up great against Huey's deck. It's not bad. I don't know. I think it's a really close call.
I think so too. Close call.
So if Justin exerts here, Huey can block and pump twice. And then Justin could use the Shed Weakness against a tapped out Huey. I think that's the way this is going to go.
Yeah, he could also just choose to trade and play out another creature. Hooded Brawl,
Yeah, but he can
saving the
only
Hooded
play
Brawler
one
is
creature this
appealing.
turn, and the Shed Weakness lets him make 2 plays and saves a Hooded Brawler, which I think is going to be what he wants to do.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just that the Hooded Brawler is exerted, so it's sort of on layaway.
Yeah.
Investing in a creature for 2 turns from now.
Yeah. And the Shed Weakness is also a really good trick on either of the creatures in Justin's hand, which makes it pretty tempting to hold on to. So in Justin's spot, which creature would you play here?
I would play Exemplar of Strength because if you play the Exemplar and then the Great Maw, you can attack with a 4/4 creature, and if you play the Great Maw and then the Exemplar, you can only attack with a 2/3 creature.
Yep. It'll only be a 3/3 on the first attack. The Great Maw only removes a single counter, no matter how many counters are placed on it.
I see. That's good to point out. So this is like almost exactly what Huey wants, where he could, final reward and then kill a 1/1 creature with the Javelineer, but unfortunately the Exemplar is going to grow out of range before that can happen the way he wants it to.
I think we're probably not going to see an Exert, and then I think Huey will probably final reward the Exemplar.
Yep. And then he'll be looking to pick up another spell and Javelineer the Hooded Brawler as soon as he can.
Yep.
Huey could have waited to the last possible moment to use the final reward, but he wants to do it before Exemplar of Strength removes the counter and gains a life. Yeah, very nice. So, would you be cycling?
He's probably going to cycle on the Hooded Brawler, and then Justin will save it with the Shed Weakness.
Yeah, so this works out conveniently for Justin, especially if he can cast his Incident and then draw 6th land for Sheffet Monitor. That's going to present a lot of power and toughness for Huey to deal with.
Yeah, so it's really bad for Huey that Justin was able to save his creature there, but the good news for Huey is that now that there is a 2 toughness creature that'll still be around for the Warfire Javelineer.
Okay, so the best Huey can do is pass the turn with the intent to cycle Fetid Pools.
Yep.
And Justin, it looks like, is going to attack for either 5 or 7 and add Sheffet Monitor to the table.
Yep. I'm guessing 5. Yeah, he goes for 5, although I think 7 would have worked out better given the Warfire Javelineer. But I think that I would definitely have only attacked for 5 in that spot.
Okay, so in the top 2 cards of his library, Huey really needs something that he can cast. Ooh, that's
that was
big.
A really big draw.
That's just what he needed. A card that neutralizes the Sheffet Monitor and allows him to cast 2 spells in the same turn.
Yeah, so he gets to fully stabilize the board here. And then it's just a top deck war where neither one of them have any resources. And they both just have a 2/3.
A game that a moment ago looked really bad for Huey Justin drew a forest, so it's now completely evened up.
Yep. So I like Huey's chances in this spot since his deck is more powerful.
Yep, if he just draws something like Kefnet.
Yeah, Kefnet would more or less immediately end this game. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. The biggest creature in Justin's deck.
I guess second best possible after the 6/7 maybe. No, I think I like this more on this board because the 6/7 would only trade if Huey drew another creature.
Oh no, that was the crucial draw step for Huey. He needed to, something like another big creature to double block, but now he's going to have to chump with Blood Rage Brawler and then hope to find something. I don't know what.
Yeah, he's real. I mean, he can't block with Kefnet. Yeah, he's really in a corner here.
If I know Huey, he's going to think a long time about whether or not to play out this mountain. He's going to think of every possible combination of cards he can draw next turn to help him get out of this. So looking real quickly at his deck list, he's already worthy in his final reward.
That Kopesh was a great draw because now the Warfare Javelinier can't stop the Great Maw. And because the 3/4 has to chump block the worm, the Great Maw is either going to get through or kill the Javelinier.
Yep. It's a bad spot here.
Justin's thinking about whether he wants to move the Kopesh onto the O2. Lets him buy another turn. He can return the Brawler and play it. Or the Sure Shot, I guess. Yeah, he has enough mana to play it and pump, but there's no advantage to doing that.
Yeah, so now the Brawler can chump the Sandworm again. The Gravedigger and the Javelinier can double block or threaten to double block the Great Maw. So this is just fully one more draw step for each player.
Yeah, if there's a sequence back into it, this was a reasonable part of it because it dealt with one of the two threats essentially while buying time to deal with the other threat. But Huey's used his 2 big 5-mana removal spells. I don't know if he has another.
Yeah, there is no single card in his deck that's going to deal with that Sandworm 1-for-1.
So he basically needs to draw like Glyph Keeper into Blood Rage Brawler?
Yeah, that would do it. Some kind of sequence that allows him to put 2 creatures into play and double block. Or
I think it likely has to be exactly that because he has to chump block every turn. And so it's very hard to get 2 creatures in when you can only draw 1 a turn. So you need Embalm to do it.
What about something like Wander in Death, 2 creatures back, use 1 to chump block, and then draw a 3rd creature the next turn? Some kind of sequence like that could be possible.
Yeah, that could work. Just enough to trade off the Great Maw for the Warfare Javelinier because he has another creature, and so he just wants to be using the Kopesh to make his creatures trade when they're a little bigger. Now he has 2 lethal creatures, so the Gravedigger is going to have to jump block. Yep, so Huey can chump block both creatures here, but he can't make any progress.
Right. All right, he's seen enough. Well, Sam, your team is currently up 3-1, so Peach Gardener is going to need a big round coming up here if we want to continue playing.
Yeah, I'm on track to fully get carried.
So the way the schedule works is it is possible for every player to play every other player if we need to go to the full 9 rounds. However, as soon as one team has assembled 5 wins, then they win the match and we're done for the evening. So that means we're going to play 2 more matches. Me and Sam will be in the trenches. And if Team Madison wins both, the night's over. If not, we keep going. Okay, we'll be back for next round. Thanks for joining us.